they're the questions that the Shem MiShmuel brings up that we never knew existed, and they're like the old ones, which he gives a different pan on, and the ones that he goes deeper in. That's what I find constantly, this constant depth that he's sharing. So here we have the Parsha of the Meraglim, the painful Parsha, because Klal Yisrael really messed up the Pashtus, right? Ended us up in the Midbar for years and years and years, supposed to going to Eretz Yisrael straight, and it could have even gone into Eretz Yisrael straight, and the Chorban Bayis would have never even happened. Who knows what would have been? So this is big stuff, right? And of course, Tisha B'Av is rooted in this. So what went wrong? Okay, we're not going to talk about what went wrong so much. What we are going to talk about is those that were saved. There were two that stood against it. One was Yeshua, one was Kalev. Kalev is the third person listed in the list. Pay attention to the beginning of the Torah, and Yeshua is the fifth. The Shem MiShmuel doesn't say this, but I'll just share a word of the holy Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim says, what's the Seder of the Meraglim? There's always a Seder, right? Like the Golem, there's a specific group. Yudah together with this, Tegel Machne Ephraim. There's a way things are listed. So he says, the Orach Chaim says that the list of the Meraglim, as they're listed at the beginning of Parsha Shlach, doesn't follow any of the rules. But the way it was the individual greatness of each one. They're godless, b'chokma, binyan, and kavod. How great they were. They're like their eternal greatness. Which the reason that's extremely interesting is that Kalev ends up number being 3, and Yeshua means number 5. Wow. That means Yeshua be the one who Yeshua. We have a whole saver called Yeshua. I just made a siyum on. I'm starting Shir on it next Monday. Little plug for anybody who wants to hear my Yeshua Shir online. You can get them. But incredible. So these great people. Yeshua was only number 5. And Kalev was number 3. That means there were 3 of the Meraglim. 2 of the Meraglim were greater than Kalev. They messed up. And 3 of them were greater than Yeshua, and they messed up. It's really incredible, which is important introduction to what he says. So now, the question we're going to be dealing with those are both. So we know that Yeshua's original name was Hosea, and then Moshe would daven and added a yud to his name, which is really, imagine someone said to you, "Oh, you're going to America? Good. Okay. What's your Hebrew name, Dickin?"
Moshe Yitzchak.
What?
Moshe Yitzchak.
Well, it used to be. Now it's Moshe Yitzchak Shmuel. Because I'm looking into you and I realize Moshe, no. Yemin Moshe Yitzchak, right? You down for that, right? You're not down for that, right? That's not appropriate, right? That would stay far away from a rabbi that does that to you, or he's very holy. So chances are. Anyway, but so one question is like this, 3 questions. Why did Moshe have to add the name to Yeshua? Why not to Kalev? And why that name? Why Yoshua, Yud Hey? Why not another name? Okay? V'ikra Moshe ben Nun Yoshua. Be'erish Rashi, Shapell of Yud Hey, Yoshiach Me'azas Meraglim. V'yesh Lavin. Lama lo d'pal gam and Kalev. Why did he daven Kalev? B'ishlam lo yetem Meraglim. Shekil Kalu b'chiratam b'chiralon. Let's skip over the first paragraph. But kids, why did he daven? Why did he daven for Yeshua and he daven for Kalev? V'nira dinei yeshad bonin b'yud shosif li. Second paragraph. Nira dinei yeshad bonin b'yud shosif li Yeshua. The tefillah yud hey Yoshiach Me'atzis Meraglim hayti yachol liot av balito seven hayud lishmo. I mean, why do you have to add? Why do you have to add? You want to daven, right? Thinking I'm going to be matzliach. I'm going to daven for you to have matzlacha. You're getting your rabbanut test. I'm going to daven. You had it already.
Still in month.
So I would die. If you ask me, I would gladly daven for you. It's not that we'll do anything, but I happily daven for you, right? So you say, okay, good. That's one thing. He said, by the way, okay, your name is now Eli Snore. You know what I mean? No, Rabbi, I asked you to daven. I asked you to change my name. No. I'm telling you. Also, why this name? Below Elokim Yoshiach Me'atzis Meraglim. Oshem Yud Adnus. Why Yo? Why Yud K? They're both. It's always exciting to me when the Mefarshim deal with the Shemus of Hashem, because it's a very big sugya, Shemus of Hashem. Very, very big. Very big, and we usually get glimpses of it, but a lot of Kabbalah is about that, that's maybe out of our league. But when you learn Chumash, sometimes Elokim is there, sometimes Hashem Elokim is there, sometimes Hashem Elokim, sometimes it's Adnus, sometimes it's Shakai, and it all is meaningful. So on the one hand, you have to tread carefully and explain and just not make up stuff and don't say ridiculous things. But it's for sure meaningful. And when one of the great Mefarshim, the commentators like the Shem MiShmuel gets into it, it's exciting because that gives us a safe way to increase our knowledge about this important topic. Now what he's going to do deeply, Rabbi say, is going to get into the Meraglim. Right? Like always. Shem MiShmuel always means he starts with like specific questions, but then he opens up into the whole topic, and through opening up the whole topic, now these smaller questions make sense. That's the general what goes on in yeshivas in general. You see this nafkamin, you see this diak, really it's building this bigger machlokes. Ram and Rai really argue about that. And since arguing about that, this comes out. So that's why like last week, we spoke about Yitzchak, because I told a few people the whole thing about Yitzchak and Avram, I don't want to go into now, even without going into the whole thing, right? There was so many layers to that. What's the menorah and what's the Beis HaMikdash? Okay, but within the way there are all these yisodas, we call all these fundamentals that are being laid down. So now he gets to the whole question, which is really one of the big questions. What was going on with the Meraglim? I mean, they were big people, right? Moshe chose them, and look where their friends were. It's like if you would see like 12 elders going out, right? And two of them, or one is a Yasha, one's a Shlomo Zalman, another 10 people. I don't recognize them, but they're probably pretty good. If they're going out with the Rabbi Yasha and Shlomo Zalman, if they're going together with the Shech, if they're going together with Vasher Weiss, it must be a good group. So look who's in the group. I mean, look at the group. And them, so it must have been a really simple mistake. They must have been really like dummies. No. They weren't stam rebellers and negligent ones. They had a subtle mistake. I've already explained in different ways what their mistake was. Interesting. What happens, guys? A person makes a small avera. I'll tell you this is a dieter. I'll tell you this is an exerciser. I swim 40 laps. I am very makbid to swim 40 laps. I get them count wrong sometimes. But so you say, why not? What's the difference? Is there a difference for your health if you swim 38 or 30, 40? There's no difference between 38 and 40. There's a difference between 24 and 40. And if I start swimming 38, I'm going to end up swimming for 24. You got it? So I'm makbid on 40. Yeah. So a small mistake, if you don't catch it, suddenly, a person lets himself slip. A little lashon hara here, a little lashon hara there, and suddenly, hutralo, like the Gemara tells us, a person does an aver and he does it again. Hutralo, it's mutter already. Now it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to say lashon hara, right? Look, I say the proof that it's mutter is because I do it. I'm a God-fearing Jew. I say lashon hara, and it must be okay. And then already you wake up and you say you're Baal lashon hara. My God, you're not Mekabel Pnei Shechina. Look what you turn yourself into. It started with that. So there was a small mistake, and I did that. What's nishtavu? Shoav what's a shoav? They drew into themselves. They brought bad into themselves. Yoser. So they brought all types of bad kochos, right? Not just guys. I explain it more like a hergel, like a habit. But he's explaining means on a spiritual level, right? Every avera brings spiritual gook into ourselves. You did a little treif, a little this, a little that, and suddenly you don't see things the same way anymore. Ki ilu haya chasashon pshitas. Now prove it. The ilu haya chasashon pshitas pesha merid nigla. If it would be an obvious thing, lo haya Yeshua tzarich l'tfilas Moshe. Right? So he's not. I don't think he's going to explain so much what the sin is. If he's just bringing a proof that it must have been something subtle. Because if it wouldn't have been subtle, Yeshua. Let's say Yeshua sees a bunch of people doing avodah zarah. You think Yeshua needs chizuk about that? Yeshua's so weak, No, it's the subtle mistakes often which are dangerous. V'chein koliv lo yitzarch lishtadchus al kivrei avot. What did Kalev do? Both say Kalev eventually was going to get land around. Kalev inherited in Yeshua and Shotim. Kalev inherited the land around Hebron, right? And Kalev was deeply connected to Hebron. And Kalev went to Hebron and he went to the Avos, right, to give him koch. Ki tzadikim leave him b'shutam. The tzadikim are in control of themselves. Elamak Moshe to daka ma'od, right? Daka ma'od. Hayachshash pen machmas shlitas hara yichshechu chashunim inim ros nechoach, right? What the problem was that they were going to make a mistake. Yavo gam heim letot shetiti benim azis maragim. Suddenly maybe, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu knows, Moshe knows that there's a danger over here, and it's a subtle thing, right? And that's already. It's like imagine you take like a fine Hasidic boy or something, a fine Hasidic girl. You tell him, go to Tel Aviv disco. Check it out. I don't. What are you crazy? What's me to a disco? Nothing against discos, right? I mean, yeah, but But you say, no, just do this thing, and then suddenly already that's a mistake, but it's a subtle mistake. So there are obvious mistakes and there's subtle mistakes. And once we make the subtle mistakes, we get stuck a lot of them. For that you need a lot of wisdom. It's not so obvious. Well, so that's it a lot of times to see. I'll give you an example in the world of Midas. The great Alter Slobodka was one of the great understanders of men. So he would have disagreements with other Rabbeim. Someone would see a guy as lazy. He says, he's not lazy, he's thought out. Yeah, you might say, how come he's not acting? Everybody's acting, he's not. Oh, he's a lazy guy, right? No, he's thought out. Another guy is very active. He said, no, he's not active, he's lazy. Well, he's acting, he just wants to get rid of it. He wants to get done with it, right? A lot of time it takes a lot of chachma to be mavchim between, that's what real experts do, right? You see them, we look at it one way and they realize, no, this is not, look at this, this is not blood. No, it is blood. This is, right? That's, when it's close, by the way, that's the danger of Yavin. What was the danger of Yavin? Chachmas Yavin, it's often spoken about. Because we're into Torah and they're into Chachma, right? We're all into Chachma, yeah? The Paras, like it says, Para was physicality. A Yid does 180 days of a party. What do you do at 100? I get bored after 18 minutes at a party, personally. You know what I mean? Me and my wife, we were just talking about it yesterday. We're both similar. We're both, I can't sit around people too long doing nothing. You know what I mean? Just personally, I have nothing. I get bored after 18 months. What do you do for 180 days for the party? Drinking, women. Matosa, it's not a Yiddish azach, yeah? Chachma, oh, that's interesting. So that's why Yavin was much more dangerous in a certain way, because it gets into you. There you need the koch to be mavchin. No. This is correct. This is not correct. That's how it's often explained. That was the choshech of Yavin, was that it looks similar. Weren't they the same thing? What?
It's like the chazir. It looks kosher.
It presents itself. Yeah. Okay. Good. So now, Ukamo shehigin, Kvod Kedushas, as always brings from his father, Kvod Kedushas Mash Nemar al Shlomo, Ki Chachmas Elokim Bekirbo Lason Mishpat. The Chachma of a Kadosh Baruch Hu was in him. Ad Shamar Harotzi Shakim Yasu B'Dini Mominus. This is beautiful, guys. Dini Mominus, which we're not learning so much, right? But what's the Koch? It says Shlomo had Chachma to do Mishpat, right? That's a pasuk in Melachim Aleph. And it says, Harotzi Shiachkim, someone who wants to be very wise, should be involved in Dini Mominot, to be a Dayan. Why? Ki levar hamishpat, im hamamin shaykh lezel lezeh. Now he says a very, very Hasidish pshat over here. I don't mean like wild, I just mean like, deep and spiritual. To be involved in mishpat, what is it? There's two Yidden over here. And they're two sources of goodness. He's a Yid, he's a Yid. He's a tzaddik, right? Tzaddikim sometimes have machlokesim, right? So that already, I have to be mavchim between the two tzaddikim. That's very, very difficult, right? Is he going to get the money? He's going to get the money. Ki levar b'mishpat im hamomen shaykh lezel lezeh sheshneim mesitra de kedusha tzrichim lechachmi yiseirim asher levar ben tamil latar, to tell whether something's a pig or something's here. He says, why again, guys? Here's the point. It says you need a special wisdom for mominus. So the normal way we explain it, and the Litvish way to explain it, is because it's very, very deep. It's very, very hard, right? But he's saying like this: what's the difference between saying whether something is dam or not, or whether something is a treif or not, or whether something is a shellfish or not? You don't need as much wisdom. Why? Because shellfish or not shellfish is tumba against tara. That's a clear split. This is a holy thing. It's an unholy thing. But when in the world of mishpat, where it's two holy sources, it's harder to determine which one is right. Beautiful. I never saw this idea before. So interesting. Shlomo and his chachma made eruvin. What's an eruvin? Two Jewish reshuyot. But this one's Rosh Hashanah, this one's Rosh Hashanah, this is Erev Chatzeris, this is Erev Beit Chumen. It's all in the world of Kedusha. You have to wash your hands even if they're clean. Okay, I don't want to get too into that, but the point is, Rabosai, that when the closer things are, the more you need to really be able to tell what's what. Yeah? V'kinyan ze yish lomar lahavchinat betosim raglam. Ashari said dakamot. It was very fine. Lo maspikal lezeh chacham riyila. It's not enough just to be smart. El tzrichim lezeh chacham yisera. Okay, so that's the problem. Again, he doesn't go into what the Tos was. I'll just give you one explanation. Of some say like that they were worried about the Mahalach of Eretz Yisrael. That was what they were scared of. What were they scared of? In the Midbar, we're learning well. We're doing well. People are steiging. We're going to go to Eretz Yisrael, start feeling, go to the fields and stuff like that. More gashmistic existence. Like happens sometimes, right? That people say, stay in yeshiva, right? That's a common theme, and people stay in yeshiva long. Just stay; it's safe, right? Yeshiva is safe. So you say, don't go to America. It's safe, right? So here, that's one explanation, right? So obviously, but they were wrong in the end of the day. But it's something you can make a mistake about, right? Just like this, that's the type of thinking. Al Kain, therefore, Hosif Oz Yud Lo Yoshua. The Yud he b'chachma. Yud is wisdom. The Shem Shaladam hu mahuto. The Kasher Hosef Yud b'shmo nishtana b'zeh mahuto. V'nisvas b'chachma yisera. Right. So he gave him a Yud. Yud is always the machshava. What Yud? The word Yud is against the world of thought. Like Az Yashir Moshe is Olam Machshava. So Yud is what Kadosh Baruch Hu was doing was what Moshe was doing was giving Yeshua a new sense of wisdom. Because Moshe is saying like this. Yeshua, you're going to go to a place, and it's not going to be easy for you to tell, right? So I have to add wisdom to you, and that's the idea of the Yud. The Yud is wisdom, and now you're going to be really smart, and now you'll be able to see their mistake, okay? The Shem Shalom Hu Mahuto. Kasher Hosef Yud B'Shmo Nishtana B'Zeh Mahuto V'Nitzvasa V'Chachmi Yisrael. Now his essence has changed. Lahavin Ma Shelo Yada Mikodem V'Az Titachin Atfilah V'Shiyeh Nosha B'Atzasin. And now I can daven for him. So we ask, why you need two things? Tefillah you always need, right? But why change his essence? Because the tefillah without the change of the... Moshe was worried the tefillah, the prayer, without the change in the essence is not going to help. Because I'll pray for him, but he's still going to miss it. You know what I mean? He'll come back and say it's a mitzvah. It's another way to say it. Every mistake, it's a much more that was also spiritual, but now it's, where do mistakes come from? Mistakes come from that things that cover the emes. There's an emes which is available. How come people don't believe in the Ron Shalom? Right? Someone, Rav Shach. Rav Shach would teach people Amunah? Sophisticated proofs. You know what he do? He'd pick up an orange. I think the Miller used to carry seeds in his pocket. You need Amunah. This thing is going to produce 1 million apples. Yeah. This thing. You ever see an apple seed? It's brown, it's hard, it's a little rock, it's nothing. This? Yeah, from this 1 million apples. You know why? Because it's going to produce a tree, and the tree is going to produce 20,000 apples, and there are going to be 500 of these. I think we get there 5,000 of these. Yeah, something. I don't want to get stuck in the mic. From there, and eventually going to be what from this guy? You're joking. You're joking. If I told you, this computer is only going to come back, you're going to see 1,000 in 10 years. You're joking. Yeah. I don't think so. But the Ron Shem created an unbelievable world, right? And orange has pulp, and it has color, and has such. It came out of nowhere. So, but what? But there's a certain emes that a person can see. The Torah is so wise. The Torah is so amazing. Obviously, it came from a divine source, right? I think a lot of times when you learn a sugi, you see this is obviously divine. This is divine. Such crazy connections and seeing things. It's divine. How come we don't see it? Because there's something which covers us. Our bad midas cover it, right? Sometimes you see. I'll put it in another term. Sometimes you see someone you're involved with a girl. It's very, very good. It's a perfect shidduch. What's wrong? It's the bad kokas that are blocking you from seeing it. Like, just let it be, Oh, but she's not she made me a picnic and the food wasn't so good. Dude, are you crazy? Saying that's just get married. Come on, she's a wonderful girl. But there's a steer to the Orem, seeing another yid nicely. Look how beautiful Klal Yisrael is. But there's a steer. There's something which stops us from seeing the kokas. I don't see it. I don't see the beauty of the yid. I don't see his nice thing. I see how he's bad. I say he's different than me. I emphasize the differences, like we were talking this morning. So there's always that, right? Call toast, and then you make mistakes. Yidden aren't good. I don't want to marry a Jewish girl. Kol toast l'mishakun mitzad kochas amastirin and oremus. V'kochas ahem v'ham makmas abriya. Now this is really cool. It's very, very deep, right? It's out of my league. But he says, but where? So now there are kochos. There's the light of truth, and then there are kochos which, negative spiritual forces which cover up the truth. Okay, where do they come from? So this is how it works, guys. Let's go to the beginning of it. We spoke about this last week a little bit also. God creates a world with light, and then there's too much light. And if there's too much light, what happens? You're going to destroy. right? We make Shem MiShmuel 40 minutes. Very nice. What's a good example of too much light where it destroys? I'll give you a good example. Someone speaks too long. Seriously. People aren't caring for that. Someone is a kli for a half hour share for 40 minutes. You go on for 3 hours. I've seen it. No one's listening to you anymore. And sir, what'd you do? You broke the kli. These people wanted to hear you. They're interested to hear you. They're good people. They're nice, good listeners, everything. But what? You had too much ore, too much light, and you broke the kli. No one wants to listen to you anymore. And then what? Now what's left? Nothing. What's left in your drasha? Zero. Because all it is they're annoyed to you. They're people who live in my family lore as the big speakers. They remember Eli Shavuot. This guy spoke for 45 minutes, and still, you think anybody remember what he said? All they remembered is he spoke too long. He even warned us. He said, "I want to be marich," and he did. That's what you left with. So you just broke the kli. So that's so what happens for both sides? So Kadosh Baruch Hu says there's too much light, so I have to make a tzimtzum, I have to mitzamtim the light. Yeah? I have to hold back the light. If it wouldn't be with that, so he's touching on a very, very deep idea, but the way it works generally is like this. Kadosh Baruch Hu comes with all of his light, and he says, if I come with all my light, it's going to destroy the kli. Yeah? So he's mitzamtzim. So Hashem put in necessary blocks of light. Yeah? But those blocks are still there. They cover up light even when they shouldn't. The koach, it's like a person like, once upon a time, you say like, what are you doing with those? Like, why are you wearing, you ever see people inside with shades? It's always interesting to me. Like, I've never big sunglasses guy, but sometimes I see people like inside with shades. Like, what are you doing? What I'm saying? That I need the shades. No, you don't need them inside. But where's it come from? It's a leftover, right? The shades I needed outside, now they're still on inside. No, take off the shades. You don't need them anymore, but they're there. So it's the same thing. So Kadosh Baruch Hu created this necessary blocking of light, and that koach is still in the spiritual atmosphere, and that's blocking the truth now today. Isn't that cool? Yeah. If it wouldn't be for that block, all the names of Hashem were there because of the Bria. Zula Shem Havaya Baruch Hu Baruch Shem Moshe Kodem Shnever. Both say this is out of my league. I didn't know that. Right? All the Shemus Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo. The name Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo was before the Bria. Right? It's so close to. It's closer to his essence, not his essence, but it's closer to his essence that it was there even before the world was there. Wow. Other names came about with the world. Okay, that's what he says. Yedua Dekol Hashemas Mechudashim Machmas Bria Olam. When Hashem created the world, He needed His names to express Himself in this world. But the names came out with the Bria. Yeah? It's like He said, I'll give you an example. Lavdil. It's like someone says, like, right now, your name is Dickin. Very good. I said, Dickin. Dickin doesn't go in Hebrew, right? I mean, if you want to settle down and you want to come to make Aliyah, so don't call yourself Dickin. What's your name? Moshe, right? Moshiko, Moshe, that was hello. Like my name is Schoonmaker, yeah? In Hebrew, we made a Schoonmaker because we realized you can't, that's a lolech, yeah? So now, Havdil, just giving a marshal. So Kadosh Baruch creates a world, and He's expressing Himself in the world. Now He needs all types of names to express Himself. So the names came about, the names of Kadosh Baruch came about in the world of Tzimtzum Or, as opposed to Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo was there before the Tzimtzum. That's what he's saying. Yeah, very big stuff. The Yeter Hashem is Mivinotam. Again, Lasir Tatot. So now, this is a very, very deep shot. Again, Lasir Tatot. Yitachim Machmasofad Shem Zeh Shay Kodem Shnever Olam Kodem Hasatav VeHester VeTzimtzum. The Yeter Hashem is Mivinotam Gam B'Bchinas HaHester VeTzimtzum. So now, look how deep he is, we'll say. That's crazy. That's why he dafka used the name Yud Hey and Vav. We'll say Yud Hoshua. He added a Yud, but the Yud made the name into Yud Hey and Vav, Yud Hey Vav, which that was the name of before, because the other names are work. Again, here's the picture. Let's say it simply. It's very deep, but there's light. Then there's blocks. Those blocks are still there confusing us. Right, the reason Kofrim today is somehow rooted in those blocks. Right, Moshe doesn't want Yeshua to get stuck in one of those blocks. Yeah, what does he have to do? He has to get him shaykh to a shame which is beyond blocks. The only name which is beyond the blocks is Yud Hey Vav system, because Adnus and Elokim is all in the world of blocks, so it won't necessarily get him past the block. Okay, that's the you got it. You got it? That's the calculation. Incredible. Alkein, let's read from there. Alkein lasir tatod yitachin machmat hofat shem ze shaya kodem shnevrolim kodem hester v'tzimtzum. The yeter shemot mivim otam gamachin hester v'tzimtzum. Meaning Elokim is in a world. Elokim and Andus, those names are all in the world of Hester. Alkein hosib bo os hayud shemiata yesh bo otios yud hey vav geseder mishem havaya shem ikar otios shem sakadosh k'moshe kasav Rabbeinu b'chayi binyan Hoshana Rabbah shu yom yud aleph mibrias olam gematria shalosh otios ela. Very cool. So here he says like this: Yud Hey Vav Rabosai. We have the name of Kadosh Baruch Hu is 4 letters: Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, right? But the ikar of that, Rabbeinu B'chai says the 3. Yud Hey and Vav. You have the ikar of that name. So his name was Hoshua Hey Vav, but when it added the Yud, it became Yud Hey Vav. Yeah, and that name is the ikar. Now what's the gematria? That Yud is 10, Hey is 5, 15, and Vav is 6, 21. That's also Hoshana Rabbah is the 21st day that he brings to Rabbeinu B'chai, okay? Ki yadu b'dibri chachmei yamas v'zeh hayelo siu lahasir hester b'zeh yinitzo mitos v'cheshras atzas meraglim. It's pretty incredible. So Moshe has 2 pshatim again. So why did he add a yud? Listen carefully. He either added a yud to add chachma, because he needed extra chachma to see their mistake, or he needed a yud to give him the power of Shem Hashem, of Yud Hey Vav. And that name specifically, because that name is the name which is beyond blocks, beyond Hester, beyond mistake. Right? That was a world, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is shaykh to a world where there was no block, where everything was clear, total clarity. But the Shemas of Elokim imply already, I'll give you, I don't know if this is what he means, but like, even Elokim, it gets confusing sometimes. You see, is it El? Yud Hey Vav Hey, you never get confused in the Chumash. Right? But is it Adonai? Is it Adoni?
Yeah.
Right, and just even the name itself, I'm just pointing out, often is mixed up. Elohim Acherim. Yeah. I remember I was learning a pasuk recently in Yeshua. I realized, it's not Elo. You don't say Elohim, it's Elohim. It's referring to Avodah Zarah. But I read it first wrong. The word, the word it leaves room for mistake. I don't know if that's what you hear what I'm saying? Because they're in these names are in the world of the Hesterim.
Is that also?
Anus also, he's saying everything besides Yud Kei Vav Kei.
The judges.
Elohim is judges, right? They have the Yud Kei Vav Kei doesn't mean anything besides there's no. Tzvakos means an army, exactly. Right. Shalom is shalom, right? Chanun, Gibor, right? Those Shaka. I don't know what Shaka is. It's not, but Shaka we don't use, but so much. But you hear.
In the last expression, give us 70 different names of the connected 70 nations. And those are ones that you could say because they're also words.
Okay, Lefiamor, you van mashlod palal kaliv. Now, why do you daven on Kalev? This is cool. So, what about Kalev? Okay, I like doing this once in a while, but it's nice to know there was a world of Gilgulim, right? We don't talk about it so much. It's a confusing world, and not to get caught into, but Yuvan Mashahit, Lord Palal Kalev. Kilikutei Torah Marizal, Shinasavar Nishamas Hashvatim, Uven Kalev Nishmas Hashvatim, Uven Nisavar Nishmas Yehuda. So, Kalev was shaykh to Yehuda.
Yeah.
Yehuda Shekida Shem Shemayim B'far Hesya. Let's skip this part for a second. Let's get to the last paragraph. Lefidar Kenu Yesh Lefarish Madi Isa Shabbos Yaseh Kulo Torah. It says Shabbos is miyuchad for Torah. Why? Amibah Shehigi Kvod Kaddish Avi Zatzal B'Pasik B'Chalakim Yom HaShvi. Komas Yishmayim Voretz Hayinim Tochen V'Holchen Ad Yom HaShvi V'Hayinu Shayinim Rachim Yashorish Aidei Tzimtzum. It says that over the 6 days of creation, the worlds were getting further and further away from Hashem. Right? V'hu Shem Elokim hanever by Sabratius. B'Shabbos nistalka tzimtzum v'mzeh nistalka milonim tochen v'holchem. So when Shabbos came, that the thing holding back the light was undone. Right? Shabbos somehow held it all together. Somehow Shabbos held it all together. Yeah? V'zeu v'chal shitarim v'shetzi haynu shenistalik shem elokim shu shem hatzimtzum shetzi. Shetzi is the name of tzimtzum. Now it went away. But here's the point. V'nei Torah hi kishma shemor ladam lahavkin. What's Torah, guys? The whole point of Torah is it allows one to see the difference between things. Right? That Talmud Chacham has what says a tzvias ayin to know. This is good. V'nei Torah hi kishma shemor l'adam la'avchin l'havdil davar midavar hibo cheshkos ha'seichel v'atos. Feed arcana besides stama. Stama seichel makes mistakes, right? Logic, rational, but the Torah digger mind is different. Feed arcana now call cheshkos ha'seichel v'atos ba mipasat tzimtzum. All the mistake comes from the tzimtzum. Alkein b'Shabbos Shuzman Tziluk Hestem Tzimtzum V'Hester Shman Nistayim Kolin Yinatos Alkein Shabbos Shuzman Muchan L'Torah B'Yoser. Because he's saying Gvaldi Yizachar. Well, it's like this. Let's just say the second half of what he's saying over here. That there's a world. What happened originally in the world? There's a beautiful light in the world, but it was too much. So Hashem has to make Tzimtzum, right? Hashem has to make it. Has to turn the light down a little bit. Though, and there were kochot there. It's like I'll give you a good example. This is a good example. Let's say there's a very, very great tzaddik. The tzaddik is giving out light and goodness, you know? He can spend hours with a person, but he has gaboim. Now the gaboim are sometimes very, very pushy.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
But they're necessary, because without them, the whole thing would shut down. Yeah. Yeah, you got it, guys. You got it. But now sometimes then they become a call with ne'atzmo, and now already they're not working for the side. They're working with somebody. They're making some money on the side sometimes, and all types of kilkul will come out, right? But they're necessary. That's the same thing. So Shabbos is the time when like the tzaddik comes out itself without any. So Shabbos is the time when everything goes away. Yeah. Unboundaried, right? So therefore, that's what's good. So therefore, Shabbos is the time. So since Shabbos is unboundaried, now I can have the light, which is necessary for Torah. Yeah, that's time. So we'll say, so a quick review, and just to me the lesson that comes out here. It's a pretty deep piece. I know maybe it was a little too deep. Maybe I chose something that was too deep. But the point is like this. Here's what I want everybody to remember for the Parsha, right? Kalev and Yeshua both needed efforts. We didn't go so much why the efforts were different, but they both needed efforts. That shows us that what's going on Pshat level, what was going on with Imran was a very, very deep thing and a very tricky thing. One that one could easily miss, right? And that needed something great. Either it needed a lot of wisdom, that's a simple Pshat. Another level, what it needed a Shem of Hashem. It needed Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, Mamish in him, but Dafka name, which was pre-mistake, right? Because all the mistakes come about from that original, which is a really interesting way of looking at the world. It's all the mistakes come about from the original symptom. Because in the world of great light, you can get destroyed, but it was all clear. Everybody sees it's there. You can't miss it, right? It's miss it. There's just too much light. And then in the world of all these blocks, so then a lot of like the gaboim, the gaboim are needed, but sometimes then they're already darkening things, and you can't even talk to the person anymore, and then they start controlling him, etc. So it's unbelievable. Moshe's eitzah to Yeshua was, I have to take you back to the Shem Yukevavke. You have to go back to the beginning. Even Shem Adnos and Shem Elokim won't help you. You have to go back to a place where there was no mistakes, where there's total clarity. Get above it. The lesson for us is you have to be careful, right? There's a lot of things outside which look okay and they're not okay, and a lot of times it's not simple sometimes to see the difference. I see people all the time. You hear about some of this Rav, and then this one says he's the greatest thing in the world, and someone else says that he's taking money, and then what's the truth? It's hard to know sometimes. Is this person Mashiach or not Mashiach? Like that. I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but I'm saying, and it takes a real call to be mavkin. Sometimes, who's real, who's what, who's what, and lo pashut. Now life isn't simple. Okay, all right. So we shouldn't fall to the atzis meraglim. We should learn all the parts of the Torah seriously and deeply, and we should be like Yeshua and Kalev that go the right way, not the wrong way.